Waltz with Bashir is an Israeli-made documentary from 2008 about the Lebanese-Israeli War in 1982. In order to understand the film, you have to understand the war itself, which is actually a culmination of two separate conflicts, one between Israel and Palestine, and one between the Muslim Lebanese people and the Christian Lebanese people, who were in control of Lebanon since its independence in 1943. These Muslim Lebanese people sought equality and felt oppressed. As a result, they formed an alliance with the PLO, or Palestine Liberation Organization, the Syrian Army, and other freedom fighters from the Middle East who supported their Shiite Muslim cause. These forces moved into Lebanon, and especially the Palestine Liberation Organization continued their attacks on Israel from Lebanon. On the other side, Israel supported the Christian Lebanese forces. In 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon from the south and moved up until they took Beirut in August. As a result, the massacre occurred in September. Although there were many factions involved in this civil war, there were only two sides. The Lebanese front was the Christian Phalangist right-wing controlling party led by Bashir Gamal, the president-to-be, who was assassinated. They were supported by the Israeli Defense Force, the main military of Israel, who moved up from the south to support their cause and bolster their position until they took back Beirut. The Palestine Liberation Organization had already taken root in Lebanon and was supporting the Lebanese National Resistance Front. This coalition supported Shiite Muslim cause in Lebanon. In addition to those groups, the Syrian army had already taken up positions in Lebanon and was also supporting the LNRF. In addition, finally, the organizations Amal, Hezbollah, the Kurds, and the Armenians all had separate factions that were supporting the Muslim Lebanese groups. This is a very unique documentary. It could be called a personal extension of its creator Iri Folman, who served in the IDF in the war in Lebanon. Folman cannot retain any memories. However, he begins to after speaking to friends and companions who he served with, and others who are experts of the mind and memory. Folman begins to piece together his experiences and regains what he had lost. He sketches all of it, the dreams and the thoughts included, and begins to understand just what he did there and what occurred. The film was well received worldwide, earning accolades and awards and other nominations. However, it is still banned in many Middle Eastern countries, Lebanon included. A single private viewing occurred in Lebanon of the film in 2008, and it has not been aired there since. Although the film is primarily centered around the war in Lebanon in the early 1980s, there are other themes present. Why is the film animated? Perhaps this is a way of softening the brutal content. On the other hand, this could be Folman's method of conveying the dreamlike qualities of his experiences and the experiences of his comrades. The film seems to state that the war was bizarre and that the experiences were surreal. Folman's experiences in particular seem unusual and unlike what most people consider to be war. And yet, at the end of the film, the animation turns to real footage of the genocide in Sabra and Shatila. This conveys the truth and the brutality. The documentary accurately depicts the deep divides between ethnic factions that have existed for generations in this region. These divides seem to occur along religious lines, and yet one cannot help but feel that the lack of adequate resources is also to blame for these problems and the cycle of violence. This violence has occurred for hundreds of years and seems likely to continue. Folman shares his newfound memories of the night of the assassination and the massacre in a very plain manner compared with the rest of the documentary. He recalls being part of a mortar team on a rooftop that was firing illumination canisters over the camps. He recalls seeing Phalangist militia units go into the camps, and he recalls seeing Palestinian and Lebanese refugees being trucked out of the camps, some of them with crosses carved into their chests. Such experiences seem to come flooding back, and he doesn't seem to understand. Although he doesn't say it, a sense of guilt seems to overwhelm him. Over the course of 48 hours, while Israeli soldiers stood guard around the perimeter, approximately 1,500 Phalangist militia entered the camps and slaughtered hundreds, possibly thousands of men, women, and children. Israeli soldiers reported what they saw to their commanders and their suspicions of what was occurring. However, the command moved too slowly, if at all, and it took too long to react. When the Phalangist militia were finally ordered out, the tragedies and atrocities had already occurred. In the aftermath, the McBride Commission said that there was no need for the Israeli forces to feel any responsibility for what occurred, and that the Phalangist militia were solely to blame. However, in the Kahan Commission, the IDF and Minister Ariel Sharon were considered responsible. As Israeli forces entered the camps in the aftermath, they could hear the wailing of women and see the piles of bodies, along with the mutilated corpses of children and women who had been tortured and raped. In the lower right-hand image, we see a woman whose husband and 5 children were murdered in front of her. The massacre received significant media coverage worldwide, especially in an era without the internet. People of all walks of life were outraged at what had occurred in Sabra and Shatila in Beirut. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the massacre. For many, the anger and hate and sadness has not subsided.